Hey, friend, I'm so glad you're here for another episode of the Happy Whole You podcast. And I have Courtney McDermott on the show today. I just got done recording with her. You guys are going to love this episode. She is the author of Give Yourself Permission. She also has another book and is working on her third book. She's a motivational speaker, a TEDx speaker, best-selling author, and she's an award-winning author. And I literally could probably talk to her for 5 hours. She is amazing. And I can't wait for you guys to hear this episode. And send us a message. Let us know how you enjoyed this episode because we want to know. Here we go. Courtney, thank you for joining me today on the Happy Whole You podcast.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Well, when we were introduced, I got super excited because the person that introduced us, I respect her tremendously. And then I took a deep dive and I went searching all things Courtney and was just so impressed with one, I could feel the love and the energy in your heart and how genuinely you want to support people and just bring awareness. And two, just how you deliver when you share is just so authentic. And I love that about you. So I was really excited to have this conversation with you and just to bring you to, my audience. And so I'd love for you to just share in your own words just a little bit about yourself and what lights you up.
Thank you. First of all, I was stargaze too. So very much excited to be talking to you. And a little bit about me. One of the things I kind of joke about is how many lifetimes I've lived in this life, right? And I feel like anyone listening to this, I know you as well, a lot of Laura Ora who introduced us, who's remarkable. We've lived so many lifetimes, so it's kind of like, which one do we start at? And I remember when I put out my first book, I started at this place. I wanted to tell the story of someone who got where society says you're supposed to get in order to feel successful. So having collected all the gold stars, the accolades, the titles, jet setting all around the world, and feeling what I called miserably successful. And so when I set out there, it was like, okay, well, what's the way? And I still was, and still very much today too, is like, okay, I'm still defining that way, that new way for myself. And I feel like so many women are, and women and men, but I feel like it's, we kind of get put into these boxes and we get told and we tell ourselves that we have to follow a certain personality script,
Mhm.
right? And personality being the character, because person comes from persona, which are the masks they wore in ancient Greek theater, right? So it's like, which character do I have to play? Do I have to force myself to play? And how do I kind of confine myself to that when in reality, so many of us are like, how do I stop confining myself?
Mhm.
How do I come up with something new? How do I be something new? How can I really be it, embody it? And I know you talk a lot about that in your work. So that's a little glimpse. There's so many other things. I was in corporate. I have written a couple books. I'm coming out with the third one this year. I talk on stages all over the world and share this message about how to use your mind and body for what you want instead of what you don't. So yeah, we can go anywhere.
Oh, I love that. And you know what I love? I love that you shared it's like almost like this script, this role that we step into. And sometimes it's like, how did I even get here? And I actually, as much as I talk about all of this, I found myself doing this just over a month ago. I found myself showing up at an event and I was like playing a role. And I remember after the event, I felt like this, like, ugh, inside of me. And so I just got quiet and started to explore that. And it was like I was so busy going from the one thing to the next thing to the next thing that I never allowed myself to be in the moment. And I think it's when we're in those moments that we can let our authenticity shine. And it was such a great lesson and humbling to be like, hey, practice what you preach, but if we
Mhm.
do, we show up in life and we start playing these roles and it's like, "Wait, who told us we are supposed to play this role?" And it's interesting. It's really interesting.
Yeah, and even what role do we want to play, right? That the ego is the role.
Mhm.
The lowercase ego, the ego, is the lowercase I. It is the character you're playing. And I think the really important distinction is understanding what character do I have to play or do I want to play, right?
Mm.
Because in this dimension, you are playing characters, and
Yeah.
so it's like that and also recognizing that and kinda celebrating that is really fun, sometimes people demonize the ego, and I'm like, "No, the ego is my
Yeah.
best buddy," it's
Yeah.
like the one that gets me in the corporate not forget 550 rooms where I feel completely at ease, and that's a character, and when you're well aware that's a character is when you start to also open up to the idea, "Well, oh, I could play other characters." And it becomes fun, and then always keeping that awareness of, I am also not the character.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think that that ties into not taking ourselves so seriously.
Yeah. Kinda wanna high five you, yeah, exactly, and everybody else listening, like, yeah, it's so true.
Yes, oh my gosh. So, you were in this corporate role and you're living your life, and then you have these moments, and, was it one defining moment, or were there quite a few moments that were showing up for you and where you realized, like, "I get to choose to make a different choice?"
Oh, yeah, so many cold shower moments. It's like, "Oh, I'm blasted again." Yeah, the way so I remember so many times distinctly that were, kind of big slaps in the face of this isn't the way. And I even talked about one in my first TEDx talk, which was like, okay, I'm, jet setting all around all the things, and then my BlackBerry gets blocked, and I'm all upset about that. Well, at the time, Blackberries were a thing.
Yeah.
It was like we had a BlackBerry and an iPhone. It was ridiculous. And I just remember feeling like, oh, everything's in there, right? And it was such a weird sensation because I remember getting on this private jet. I was the only person aside from the pilot and there was one other person in the crew in the jet, and I'm heading to Brussels, and I'm just thinking to myself, "Okay, I'm so upset about this silly thing that I can't access my email, and I don't." It was ridiculous, and I was in Italy, so I was going from Italy to Brussels, and I remember just thinking, "Well, how am I gonna solve this?" Because it was a public holiday in Italy, and in Italy, public holidays are actually public holidays, like, people don't work.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I was thinking, "How am I gonna get a hold of someone from IT? What am I gonna do?" And I just realized, this is ridiculous, right? And I had other moments where, I was dropping my daughter off to school and racing somewhere else, and it was just kind of, like, always wanting to be somewhere else than other than where I was, which maybe is a little akin to what you were talking about with playing a character instead of really playing in the
Yeah.
character. Like,
Racing.
the difference between playing a character and playing in it, like, having fun in it. And so, yeah, for me, there were lots of those moments, and every single one of them was like a little wake-up call, little wake-up call, little wake-up call, and then all of a sudden, it's like, I just prefer to be awake.
Mhm. I love that. Okay, so with what I do with people, I'm curious, what physical symptoms was your body giving you? Were you having any thyroid issues? Were you having digestion issues, lower back, neck stuff? What how is your body speaking to you in these moments?
Oh, I love when you do this. I've heard you do it on your podcast. I'm so ready to be diagnosed. I had definitely a lot of tension in my neck, and these are still areas where if I'm out of alignment,
Yeah.
these will still present themselves. So it'll be like shoulders, neck, where I'm feeling a lot of tension. I'm feeling like I'm not fluid in those areas.
Mhm.
Definitely around the lower and upper abdomen, like solar plexus. I'll
Mm.
feel a lot of kind of heavy, dense energy in that part of my body. I'll feel, um, I'll feel like almost like I'm collapsing, if that makes sense. I don't know if you've ever heard this, but almost like it's all collapsing
Yeah.
into those like
True.
central centers that don't have
Yep.
enough power to kind of stay in alignment and stay up.
Mhm.
So I'll feel that. Um, I will sometimes have like the digestive issues, but they're sort of the opposite of other people. So I'll be going to the bathroom a lot
Yeah. Yeah.
versus like it's like my body wants to release a bunch of stuff and I don't really, yeah.
That's
So
running through life.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. So those are the places that I'll notice, and also just, like, a general stiffness probably that I'll notice in my whole body where it almost feels like how that everything's so and I define this in when I talk about what's happening internally, I'll say, like, the calcification of the persona.
Mm.
It's a way that I have come to realize when I'm feeling that kind of, rigidity is that almost I'm calcifying into a certain character, and so there's this big part of me that's like, "Oh, no,
Yeah.
spread out, go dance, do whatever you need to do."
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, starting with your neck, it's the weight of the world on
Mhm.
our shoulders that we can feel, and then the stiffness is not wanting to see all sides of something, because I think too when we are in that dominant masculine energy, we do take on the weight of the world, right? And then we're, like, set in our way that, "Okay, we gotta go do it this way, it's gotta be done this way and this way," when really we need to just be those are the times we need to be more open to see all sides of a situation. But
Yeah.
we just, like, we get in it, and then I get the solar plexus with, the dealing with mental emotional demands and digesting and processing life, because things can be moving so fast, and then our bowels move so fast too, running through life.
I love it.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, that's interesting, and yeah, our bodies, they're always trying to give us information. I love that.
Mhm.
Um, so what's shifted within you since going from, those little moments of realization, those little cold showers that you were saying, to, okay, I'm gonna choose something different. I'm gonna step into something different. How has your life shifted? Because you are busy. You're going, like, we right before we jumped on here, you were telling me you were here and here and here, and then you're going there next and other places, right? So, I think it comes back to when we shift what's going on within us, things around us start to change, but they're also still similar to the past. It's just we're viewing it from a different lens. So how have things shifted for you in your life, and what direction are you headed in?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I did a few years ago was I eliminated the word busy from my lexicon.
Oh.
So you will never hear me say I'm busy. And sometimes people say that to me. They say, "Oh, you're so busy." And my response is always, "Oh, I'm absolutely not busy. I'm the least busy person you know."
I love
And
it.
I have totally trained myself to really not only believe that, but to your point, embody it. So, for instance, if I'm feeling that energy of sort of gnarly, I got to get somewhere, blah, 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 I lay down.
Mm.
I go and lay down. I kinda do what I would do with a little kid.
Yeah,
As
yeah.
I say, and it doesn't even have to be a nap, and what I love about what the science reflects about this is I'm actually able as soon as I do that pretty much now, as soon as I do it, I'm shifting brainwave frequencies.
Mhm.
And so I absolutely adore this practice. In fact, when I'm doing some of the more intense work in terms of output, in terms of whether it's writing my book or submitting an article to a mainstream publication or producing a client summary. I lay down and I turn data off and I dictate that into my phone. And because I'm so relaxed, I
Mhm.
can do this with super ease now. And it's really remarkable because part of me feels like it's funny, just last week, and this is going to sound like I'm in prehistoric times, and it's kind of true, is just last week, someone was telling me, about chat. Is it GBT or
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, someone was saying, "You should really use this," and, all this stuff, and it was funny, I had heard about it, and I've heard about it in other times, but I had heard about it first. I think when it first came out, one of my clients was saying, "You have to get on this. This is amazing, all this stuff." And I remember at the time I tried a little bit, and I was like, "This isn't for me." And then even this past week when I heard about it, I was like, "I don't know if this is really for me." Maybe for searching instead of Google, it seems
Yeah.
much better, more refined. But the amazing thing is, what I realized looking at it is that's what my brain does now when I lay
Yes.
down and I
Yes.
dictate something. It's like my brain is doing that. And it's not just my brain, it's my connection to this intelligence that we tend
Mhm.
to disregard. And so those are the main things that have shifted me is I've really become incredibly devoted to that intelligence, however you want to call it. I call it interchangeably God, universe, all the things. But it's the intelligence that is beating your heart. It's the intelligence that you are relying on for virtually everything that's occurring both within you and outside of you. So the
Mhm.
extension of faith to that tiny bit where you're like, "Oh, I have to make it go this way." That's where I have been in this process of continued relinquishment and in continued relaxation into it so that it can produce through me. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, 1,000%. It's
Mhm.
like going to that space of flow, and this is one thing I love about technology is to be able to dictate in your phone. That's
Right.
that's how I wrote my first book. I would go for walks and no music, nothing. And I would just start getting these downloads and I would like just start boom, 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 boom. And even now, I love using that. Sometimes I just sit and be quiet. And then it's like I just bring up a Google document on my phone on the Google Doc app and I just start voicing it into there. So
I love that.
yeah, it's so great. And you're right. It's tapping into that field, that quantum field of all the intelligence, like, it's all there for us. It's like we're an instrument to grab it, but we're not taught that. It's like
Ex
something we get to discover.
Oh, yes, yes. Yeah, that's why I'm on about all this because I'm just like, we are not taught it. So, and it's such a disservice that our school systems don't teach us this, that our societies don't teach us this, that our support groups don't teach us. Like they teach us to look in the other direction all
Yeah,
the time.
look outside of us.
Just look outside, exactly. Go external and you'll be okay. Get this next
Mhm.
thing and you'll be fine, and the
Yeah.
fallacy of that is just ridiculous once you start tapping into this other thing that we're talking about. Yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh, 1,000%. I was listening to one of your videos, and you had said that you got, like, marathon medals, and you were, like, getting all the awards for just in life and checking those boxes. Um, what would you say to somebody who, maybe they got that promotion or they finished that race and they did these check the box items, but then they're sitting there and they're feeling just like, "Huh," just like, "Okay, that was that." And they just feel, like, almost empty inside and they keep looking for the next thing. What advice would you give to them?
Ooh, so, that advice that I mentioned earlier about laying down, and it's so amusing to me because I was there. I was there in this place that I'm about to talk about, which is you're such an achiever, quote unquote, an accomplisher, right? That the minute someone tells you to relax, you're like, I am relaxed. I'm fine. Right. And
Yeah.
that was where I was. I was like, why are you saying I'm not relaxed? I'm totally relaxed. And I love that about us. Like, it's so beautiful. And the achiever mentality has so much beauty in it because it's like, I can't rest until I've done all that I can do. It's so beautiful. It's like, give yourself a hug and be like, wow, that's amazing. And the ironic thing is when I slow down, I am gonna get through things with so much greater ease. It doesn't mean I have to let go of my dreams, right? It doesn't
Yeah.
mean I have to let go of what I desire. I can talk about desire more in a second because I think it's so important. But that laying down piece is one of the greatest wisdom, you know, nuggets that I believe we have for us, right? Because it's the minute so and it's funny when people say, I can't possibly lay down. How am I gonna lay down?" And I have all these things to do, and there I kinda steal from the Dalai Lama, who is when he was talking about meditation, he said, "If you think you don't have 5 minutes, take an hour."
Yeah.
And I can only say this from the position of doing it, of embodying it, of saying, "You know what? Wow, you're feeling that dense energy. You need to just time yourself out," and being that loving mother, father principle for ourselves, right? Because we don't. We just kinda keep beating the horse. Well, the horse loves
Yeah.
you and it's gonna do all the amazing things, but at the same time, it's like the horse also needs you to love it back. And so that piece for me is really big, and, yeah, if you want, we can dive more into desires and things like that too.
Yeah. Yeah, no, let's dive in, like, desires and purpose, and I think sometimes it's like women it's almost like we feel like we're not deserving
Oh,
or the desires we have, we're like, "I'll get to that."
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting how we do that. So, yeah, share with us a little bit more about desires and purpose and what that means for you.
Right. So I've seen this everywhere in my work. I've seen this with women, I've seen this with men, I've seen this with everything in between and outside of those categorizations is this feeling of not enoughness, of not feeling worthy. And
Mm.
so if you're listening and that feels like, "Oh, man, yeah, there's a strand of that, there's a strain of that, there's a vein of that, there's something like that." That's, again, this evolutionary impulse. I think if when we start to reframe it as this evolutionary impulse to become, to be more. That's the state of our universe as far as we can tell. That's the state of matter as far as we can tell, is this continual expansion into infinite potentials. And so when we talk about desire, lots of times we get into this place where it's funny that when the Buddha was talking about desire being a trap, right? And desire being the source of all the suffering. I loved Anthony DeMello's teachings around this because he said, well, it's not really desire. And he didn't describe it this way, but I describe desire as an evolutionary impulse, right?
Mm.
It's like of course you're going to be having desires because you're in
Yeah.
physical form. And so there's going to be a new desire all the time. What Anthony DeMello pointed out about it was it's not the desire, it's the attachment to the desire.
Mm.
Or, the either the clinging or the pushing away. And, one of the things that I love that he said in his teachings was, "Everything you're running away from and everything you're racing toward is inside of you." And so these teachings of, "Okay, I need to get somewhere other than where I am." Like, it's not gonna be okay if I'm not, if I don't get this. It is great only if I have this. This is the same thing happening, right? Over and over and over, and it's like the minute we kinda debunk the myth of it being somewhere outside of us and our enjoyment, our pleasure, our wellness, our peace of mind being attached to a specific outcome, and this is hard work. I mean, this is freaking
Yeah.
really, really hard work, but the
Is that
minute we
the way?
start to yeah, the minute we start to like, the more we give it up, the more we get it. And that's the irony, is like we give it up and we're like, "Okay, all right, I got it." Because why do I have it now? Why do I understand this? Is because every single time I've done it, it has
Yeah.
not yielded that kind of result that I'm wanting, right? It's been this short-term sort of like juicy yumminess, but it's and again, this doesn't mean don't have desires and don't do the things. It's like, what if all of it that was happening was just a happening and something we could enjoy while we hold these dreams, but also while we say it's also okay that if it goes another way. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, that's sort of a little bit of what I've awoken to and still am constantly awaking to. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's definitely constant work that we get to do on this earth to evolve our souls. It's sometimes it doesn't feel great, but I do think it's that being in flow and, when we let go of like, for me, when I let go of the need to control, because that's, like, my natural instinct is I wanna control things, and this is probably a trauma response, not probably, I know it is, but, like, every time I find myself going like this to control something, I have to say, "Okay, you bend and flow with ease, let it go." And it's a constant practice for me. And it's like when I actually let go, it's so interesting how things light up for me and they come into my field. And I think that sometimes it's when we're holding on so tight to that dense energy or whatever you want to call it, that when we decide to just relax and release that laying down part, then it's like, "Oh, here, there's a pathway to come to you with all the good stuff."
Yeah.
But
Now
yeah.
Now, one of the ways I like to think about it is the energy that you might have with a lover, partner, or whatever, is sort of like when I'm "Oh my god, I need you in order to be this way." It's like, oh, that clingy energy. You're like, the same way with that energy of, "I don't need you," that also says, "Okay, you don't need me, right? I'm off
Right,
over
right.
here." Like, if you have a healthy relationship with yourself,
Yeah.
neither one of those approaches are gonna work for you in a partner, right? And it's the same with life as a partner is,
Yes.
okay, if you're trying to control me, if you're trying to manufacture things, like, this can be pretty gnarly, right? You can still do it, and I still love you, like, kinda like a mother, again, that loving mother-father principle, but you're gonna like a kid in a tantrum,
Yes.
it's just gonna wear yourself out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I feel like that's a good way to remember it. It's just relaxing. Mhm.
Yes. Oh, that's so good. I love that. Can you share with everyone a little bit about the books, the 2 books that you've written, and then a little insight onto your 3rd book?
Sure. So the second book that came out about a year and a half ago, but the audio just came out, because I wanted to do the audio myself,
Oh,
which
how was that experience?
oh my god, it was crazy because it corresponded with my move across the world, and so I'm going into the studio every morning and recording both of my books, but I really love the fact that it was my voice, and I insisted on that because we had
Yeah.
lots of offers, but I just said it's frequency thing.
Yes.
So
1,000%.
and so I felt like I really did have to do it, and the publisher was like, "Well, we need it now." And like I said, just coincided with this craziness, but it was beautiful. It was beautiful going into the studio. I documented part of it of just, okay, I'm back in here, the process of what I was doing in order to maintain enough energy to keep that going. And yeah, so that second book is Give Yourself Permission. And what I love about this one is both of them kinda came as downloads in terms of what I felt or what it seemed needed to come through me. And Give Yourself Permission was kind of this, having been exposed to so many quote unquote high performers who could kind of go anywhere if they wanted to, but weren't giving themselves full permission.
Mm.
So weren't giving themselves full permission to embody that next character. And every chapter came as almost a directive because it was give yourself permission to change your mind was a big one. Like, we
Yeah.
tend to get in this place of, "Okay, no, I have to buckle down. I
Yes.
have to I have to do this thing." It was like, you
Yeah.
can also change your mind. You can play with that. And it's funny, I just was recently with a dear, dear friend of mine. She goes, "Court, are you giving yourself permission to change your mind about this?" By the way, this book is gonna be the total bane of my existence because all my friends say, "Are
Yeah.
you are you giving yourself permission here?" But I love it because it just reminds me, "Oh, crap," right? I need to
Yeah.
do the
Yes.
rest of this too. And another other chapters we're doing around giving yourself permission to do what you love, to make a lot of money doing what you love, right? That's another place where a lot of people get hung up is, okay, if I do this thing, which is an act of service, then I sort of have to come at it from this perspective of sacrifice almost. And that's not required of us at all. And so I really kind of wanted to debunk a lot of those myths and share some of the ways that I found of just how abundance comes to us, right? And the consciousness of richness, right, was a huge thing that was coming through me. And I've done whole episodes on I've given whole interviews just on that topic alone. So that second book, and a lot of people, I mean, we've had so many people write in and say how it's totally revolutionized their lives. I mean, we even had one person write in that he was in a trailer with his kids and he was really, really struggling, and he read the book and he's gotten out of that. He's in a much better situation. His kids are thriving. They don't even recognize him. And it's not the book, it's not anything I wrote. It's a transmission that was ready for that person in that time.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what a book is. A book is that, and it's also a snapshot of your own consciousness in that moment. So
Mhm.
that second book very much still relevant to a lot of what I'm sharing in the world. The first book as well, but in a different way, because the first book, which is called Change Starts Within You, which I could not believe that title had not been taken. Anyway, this book, I mean, that seems totally ludicrously impossible, but anyhow, when, I wrote that book, it was about my transition out of corporate, right? Because I was an executive at Vanity Fair Corporation, I was jet setting all around, again, like I said, had all the gold stars, and was totally miserable. So I was like, okay, how do I change this? How do I create a new blueprint for my life? And I really wanted to come at it with the simplest ways of starting to change in a linear fashion. So the second book is more nonlinear and incorporates also much more of the science behind change because I wanted to know, how did I actually do this? Because there were things
Right.
that happened, and I wouldn't even say I did it, things that happened to me that I could not explain. And so, for instance, when I give talks around the world, sometimes I'll show a slide of myself from 10 years ago, and the vast majority of the audience does not recognize me at all. I'm a completely different, like physically different human being.
Yeah.
And so when people and then I get into the science of that, what's actually happening when you change personalities in a healthy way. Not
Yeah.
I don't know I'm changing personalities, but I know I am, and here's what it looks like. And since I had seen this with so many of my clients too, where they were able to embody a whole new version of themselves in a very short period of time, I wanted to document as best I could what it means to actually step into a new consciousness.
Mm.
And so that's where the books came from. That's where a lot of the stage talks come from. I talk about those kinds of things there.
Oh my gosh. I love that. I love that so much. And I love that you're like, wait, how did this happen? And you go back and you look to the science, and I can relate to that so much. And I'm sure a lot of the listeners can. It's like, I think with any of us, if we look back 10 years ago and then 20 years ago, it's like hopefully every decade we are evolving and we are surprising ourselves and, we're in flow. And so, yeah, it's like, okay, how did I do this? And then it's like working backwards because it's like, okay, if I could do this, other people can totally do this. And then you go to like, I felt that way then, and I feel this way now. I want everyone to feel this way. And it's like we wanna shout it from the rooftops of like, "You can feel this way, you could do this." But I think it's the power of the storytelling of how you get to a place because that it's almost like that gives other people permission. Like, I know, like, seeing like you and other women that I've met that are doing these TED Talks, I'm like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I have permission to do that now." You know? So it's so beautiful that when we can share our stories and like someone like yourself, like you are taking the time to like put pen to paper and share this with other people because then that's giving them permission. Like the guy that I was in the trailer, yes, it was giving him permission, and it was through his frequency, and he was ready to receive that, and I just, like, get so geeked out and love all of that because it's, like, all there for all of us. It's just, like, when are we ready to tap into it? It's so great. So, okay, so this next book that you're working on, so the
Mhm.
first one was, like, kinda like your story, like, what you did, how you got to where you were, and then the second one was more of the science and, like, "Okay, what the heck did I just do? Alright, pretty cool, and there's science to back it up." So what's the 3rd one?
Right. So, well, before I get onto the third one, I want to acknowledge this piece about seeing it
Mm,
in others,
yeah.
the modeling, the way we're naturally designed and built to emulate
Mm,
if we're healthy, if we
yeah,
have a healthy, if we're healthy in our minds and or as healthy enough, right? Is we're
yeah.
designed to emulate. We're designed to see, oh, that is possible for humanity. It's like Roger Bannister with the 4 minute mile, right? When before
Yep.
he broke that record, no one
No
thought that
one
was
knows.
possible. And it was just impossible in people's consciousness, right? In human consciousness. And then the
Yeah.
minute he did, I think it was that same year,
Yeah. Oh,
other
yeah.
people broke it, and now it's
Yeah.
pretty, I don't wanna say standard, but it's like, "Oh, yeah, fine, you did it for me." You're like,
It is.
um, and
And
so yeah,
I was gonna say, and if we go to the science, these are mirror neurons.
exactly.
And then also, my friend once said something. She was like, "You can't witness something in someone else that you don't witness within yourself,"
Absolutely.
which is like, that has always stuck with me. I mean, I've used that on stage before. I'm like but it's so true because there's certain things like that something happened with an employee of mine and I didn't realize it was happening. And my husband was like, "Hey, this is going on with this person and you're aware of that, right?" And
Mhm.
I'm like, "No." But he could witness it because he's been there. I had never been there before. And so, like, it's so for anyone out there, if you're looking at someone, you're like, "Oh my gosh, they're doing this. They're so great. I want that." Like, it's because you can do it, and it's within you to do it in your own unique way, which I think is so
Absolutely.
cool.
Yeah, that was one of the revelations for me personally when I was writing the first book is, oh my gosh, all these qualities that I'm identifying in people that I so admire, these are my most
Yes.
treasured inherent qualities. And the realization of that, and even if you look at, yes, of course, mirror neurons being activated, et cetera, when we see models of things that we want, which is why, for example, it's so important to tune into podcasts like these. It's
Mhm.
not about anybody telling you what to do. It's about you
Right.
remembering the power of who you are, what you are, right? And the potentials available to you. And at the same time, we go past mirror neurons and we go into entanglement. We go into the fact that really, I don't know if you've ever read The Holographic Universe. It's such a brilliant book. Michael
No, I haven't.
Talbot, who was a quantum physicist, he talked about if you put two cameras on one fish that's in a tank, right? And he was
Okay.
talking about entanglement, and you witness these through these two different lenses. It seems like it's two different fish, but every single time it's in. So, it's corresponding movements, right? And you're like, "Oh, how's that happening?" Right? But that's what's happening as far as we can tell in consciousness is that consciousness is just split off into all these myriad of forms. And
Mhm.
so again, we could go even deeper right into that and the quarks and bosons and what's happening at a subatomic level of when you separate them and it just the power of knowing that it's one consciousness, it's one intelligence. And that draws back to what you were talking about earlier of, wow, I can just kind of grab ideas from this intelligence. I can lay down and do this. This is inherent in me. But
Right.
again, we have to see other people doing it to know this is possible. We have to experience that's possible. Like one of the things I was saying about relationship, this is kind of going to sound bad, but like intimate relationship with those things, I haven't seen a couple yet that I would actually want to emulate. And I'm so like actively looking for a couple situation that I would love to emulate because I haven't necessarily seen that yet. And that again might sound a little bit edgy, but it's just for me, that's true for me, is I wanna see something that's akin to what I can imagine and then thereby know that it's possible. So that
Mhm.
piece is really it's just a fundamental importance, I feel like, for anyone listening and thinking, "Okay, I'm ready for a new potential." So the 3rd book is about lessons in liberation. That's gonna be in the subtitle. And my idea is actually I am no body. So it's kind of when we start to realize I'm not the body and I'm not the mind and transcend into these potentials that I've been sharing and talking about. So really excited for it. At the same time, it's funny because I've got all these talks coming up about it and interviews about it, and I'm writing it at the same time, and it feels like, um, I have to step out of my own character in order to really go into the essence of this book, and so it's challenging me in ways that I haven't been challenged before.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so cool. I'm gonna have to, like, binge, go to your 1st book, your 2nd book, and then I'll wait for the 3rd book to come out.
Love you.
So
Thank
excited.
you. Same, same. I'm binging on your yours too.
Um, okay, so I do have a question for you that, so many women, I think, run into this, and this is that imposter syndrome. And I don't like to say syndrome because that sounds like it's always going on. But like that those moments of where you feel like do you feel like, "Who do I think I am?" Or, "Is what I'm even saying true?" Or, "What if I'm wrong?" Like, I know for me, this happens to me regularly, right? And so I'm wondering with you, do you find yourself having these drop-ins and then hopefully kicking them out because that's what I do is I kick them out. But it's like, why are these coming? So I'm wondering, do you have them, and why do you think we have these moments?
Totally. I had a major one yesterday. I mean, yesterday I was like, "Whoa, who am I to be saying any of this?" And I think it was last week that I heard someone say, "Oh, be careful about what you teach." It was some variation of this, like, "Be careful what you teach because you really will have to embody it," right?
Oh,
And it was one of those, like, shoot, like, I'm slapping myself in the face, right, of what I should but the truth is absolutely, absolutely, and I wouldn't even the same as you, I wouldn't call it an syndrome, I wouldn't call it imposter, I would actually call it a really healthy understanding that you don't know anything.
oh, I love that. Thank you.
Yes.
Needed that. That is my takeaway today. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Yes. It's just the healthiest relationship to have with life. I don't know anything. There's nothing I can do. There's nothing I can do. This is another central teaching that I love to share when I get on. This has been one of my main talks is how to transform without doing anything.
Mm.
Because we're constantly in this go, go, go. And this is a talk that I gave my Mind Valley. It's a variation of a talk I gave on Necker Island. It's like, how do we actually change form? How do we become a new person without the doing? And actually, it's so amazing when we get out of our way and we're like, oh, I don't have to do anything. That's amazing. And it doesn't mean that you don't perform actions in your daily life. What it means is you're not performing them to get anywhere. You're performing them because you are that thing.
Yes.
And so the minute you can kind of just relax into, okay, I really don't know anything. And this becomes silly. And that's what I love about it.
Yes.
And that's what's so transformational about it is like, I don't know a flipping thing. There's nothing that I can do in this situation. And we give up. And those have been the most potent transformational portals for me. I write about this in chapter 5. I'm pretty sure it's chapter 5 of the second book, Give Yourself Permission, of how important it is to go through that whole process of like, "Oh, I'm trying to get there and blah, 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 blah," and then to completely freaking just be like, "Dude, I don't know a thing," and get really silly. At least for me, that's been as far as I can tell, these moments that I've had where I have changed so dramatically and my consciousness has changed so dramatically, and I'm like, "This is as far as I can tell. This is how I deconstruct that."
Yeah.
Again, I think we should just banish that whole I mean, we don't have to banish it, but just replace that whole idea of, "I'm not an imposter." The truth is and I am an imposter. I am playing characters. That's the funniest part about it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that is so good. I thank you for sharing that. I love that so
Mhm.
much because it's just something that yeah, and I look at it too is when those moments come in, I love it says because we don't know anything, and that's yes, and I'm gonna keep that one. And then I think also it's a it's a check. It's almost like a gut check to say, "Yeah, you don't know this, but you know a lot. But hey, like, check yourself because, yeah, it's so fascinating. It's like this dance."
Yeah, and it's the playfulness of it because, I love that line of, "Unless you become again as children, you shall not inherit the kingdom."
Mm, that's good.
I actually get to play. That's what all of this is designed for. And when I step into that, it's like it's totally cool and okay that I don't know anything. And it's so much fun when we let go of, what it looks like or what it's supposed to look like.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna have to go back and re-listen to this. This is so good.
Thank you so much. I
Thank
really
you so much. This
yeah.
was fantastic. And then, Courtney, can you share with people where they can connect with you and where they can get your books?
Sure. So the important thing is Courtney has only an O. So it's Cortney, because I think if you put a U in the name, pretty sure that goes to like a copywriter in Illinois or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's Courtney, Cortney McDermott at pretty much everywhere. That's sort of my handle on different social media, and that's my main website. Or you could type in courtinc.com as well, Cortinc, like incorporated.com. And we definitely my team also reads everything that comes through. I get a lot of that because I wanna know how people are being impacted and the changes they're seeing. The books are available everywhere books are sold, so, everywhere online, a lot of brick and mortar, you can get, both of the books, so that's where you can find me, and I'd love to stay in touch, especially with anyone from your community, and thank you so much. You are really shining, and it's incredible to witness you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for joining me. And I'd love to have you back on again.
Thank you. I'd love to be here. Yeah.